Merry Christmas, suckers. Wearing my Santa hat today. Hey, it's Pete here. Wow. It's December 17th, and I had really hoped to have a better trapping season than I have had this year. I've had a terrible season. I usually trap one large property a year, like one real big one. And the one I agreed to trap this year looked great, and it just turned out to be not very good at all. So I set a goal of 40 coyotes this year for me, which is a good goal for me as a hobby trapper who, traps usually smaller properties. And anyway, I'm not even halfway, and I'm done here in a couple weeks. And what a weird year, man. What a weird year. Just the coyotes just disappeared from this property after a couple weeks of trapping on it. Just disappeared. No sign, nothing. So it's been a rough year for me. I haven't shot hardly any videos at all because I haven't had anybody with me out on the trap line to run the camera. I was hoping to shoot some field videos of some different sets I like to make. And anyway, I did want to shoot a predator calling video because I like to call predators, especially in January, December, January, and I'm going to be doing some predator calling here soon. I'm not really going to shoot any videos while I'm out predator calling. I don't have a GoPro, and I'm not going to ask someone to go with me and hold my phone and film a video. And there's plenty of live action predator calling videos available on YouTube and for purchase through different places. So you can watch people call them in if you want. My videos were meant to be a little more instructional and I've shot several about location and things like that. But I want to talk about a couple different ways that you can do things when you have a partner with you, or if you're using an electronic call. And again, I don't like electronic calls. I use MFK game calls. Made for killing. These guys are out of Arkansas. They do a great job on their calls. I love them. They're diaphragm calls, so your hands are free. But anyway, this video is just going to talk about some of the tricks I use when I'm predator calling. If you want to know about how to choose a location and stuff like that, I've already shot some videos on that. Okay, so this is when you're doing all the other stuff I've talked about to go and call predators. There are a couple different things I like to do just because coyotes get smart, and coyotes are just made to survive, and they're not stupid, and they get educated. And with everybody out calling nowadays, it's harder. It's harder to bring them in. And so there's a few different stands I use that I have different names for. Okay. The first one I call the ambush stand. And this is when you go out to your location and you put the call back behind you. Okay. And so if you're with a partner, then whoever is calling is behind. If you are by yourself using an electronic call, you put the call behind you. And I like to go 50 to 100 yards behind. Okay. So if I'm calling with a partner and I'm the one that's going to be calling, I'll sit down and then I'll have my partner go out 50 to 100 yards in front of me and slightly downwind, to the downwind side of me, so they're not right in front of me. Okay. And so I call this the ambush stand. And so what it does is when the coyote comes in, he's looking for the source of the sound, and he's looking up towards where I am. And he doesn't see my partner, right? Or if I were using an electronic call, I've got it 100 yards behind me. They're looking for the source of that sound. Maybe they're looking at my little feather I put out there that flips around. They have no idea. They're not paying attention. They're looking for movement or problems where the sound's coming from, and not where I'm hidden or where my partner is hidden down in front, slightly downwind of me, right? Because coyotes a lot of times will approach from the downwind side. So I call this the ambush stand because they're getting ambushed, right? They think that they're still quite a ways away from the sound, but they're not very far away from the threat. So if you get coyotes that are hanging up at like 300 yards and you do the ambush stand, now they're at 2 for the shooter. Okay, or you get a coyote who's coming in and he's 200 yards from the caller, but he's only 100 from the shooter, right? So I call that the ambush stand, right? Downside to this is that if there's a coyote in the area watching you come in, or a coyote in the area that doesn't see you, and then one guy goes tromping down another 100 yards into the calling area, you do have the potential of upsetting some things and kind of screwing things up. But there's downsides to everything. The second one I like to call the sucker stand. And this is where I put if I'm calling, I send my partner like 200 yards downwind. Okay. So I'm going to call an area just like I normally would, but my partner's going to get way downwind of me, 200 yards or so if necessary. Or farther sometimes, because as long as the wind's right and the calling conditions are good, they'll hear that call for hundreds and hundreds of yards. They can hear it for a long ways. And so if the coyotes are really getting educated and they're starting to circle clear downwind to try to wind me, I like to start doing what I call the sucker stand. And we'll leave from the vehicle and I'll go out to the calling area, and my buddy will go 200-300 yards downwind and then hop over the hill and sit. And sometimes in those situations, I call a coyote in, it comes to me, I shoot it. Other times I hear a shot and I didn't even see the coyote. I don't know what's going on. But when we get back to the truck, here comes my buddy with a coyote. He's like, oh yeah, he came in. He just didn't go over by you. He's hanging out over here to see what's going on and isn't going to go in. So I call that the sucker stand. Okay. You can do that too if there's 3 of you, one guy goes in to call, the other 2 guys go 200 yards to either side and then find a place to hide. And then you can catch coyotes coming from either side, right? But anyway, that's the idea of the sucker stand, okay? All right, the third one is the sniper stand. This is where if I'm calling a really big area, but there's a high point nearby, I'll have my partner go and hide at this high point, usually like up on a cliff or something that's within the calling area, but maybe 100 yards, 200 yards away from where I'm going to sit to call. I'll let them go in, get settled in this high location, and then I call at where I'm going to call from, which is also a good location. Sometimes it's good to get up high, but sometimes getting up high is counterproductive if it's like up a cliff or something. I mean, the coyotes may hear that sound up on that cliff and be like, there's nothing I can do about that. So they're not going to go investigate it, right? But if I put someone up on a really high point in the calling area, and then I'm down in a normal spot to call, they're not calling, they're just watching. So I'm calling and they can take a shot from a location that's up higher and has a good field of fire, for them to shoot. And the coyote doesn't have any idea that they're up there, right? So a coyote might, that high location might be 150 yards away from me, and a coyote comes in to 300 or 400 yards away from me, but my sniper up there has a shot at him. It's kind of like the ambush stand, but it's a little different. I call it the sniper stand because it's only when I can get a shooter up real high. Okay. Or I could put the call, if it's an electronic call, I could put it where I would call from, and then I can go get up high and let the electronic call do its work. But, the places I use this stand are where, like, I've got a big wide open area, but there's like maybe a canyon, a cliff that comes off of a canyon out on one side that's up above where I would normally call from. So the sniper's watching kind of the extended area, and then I'm calling to the area that I'm expecting the coyote to come. And then we got both areas covered, but the sniper can shoot from a lot of different angles at the coyote without worrying about getting busted with movement. Okay, that's a sniper stand. The last one is called the Recon stand, and this one is, I mean, it's my favorite to have happen. It's so much fun when it happens. But what happens is you go down, you got a partner with you, and you start calling, and the coyotes start barking. They start barking their warning barks at you. So they know something's up. They're not going to come to the call. You know, they're like, oh, we know what's going on. We're not coming over there. You know, that's their yip, 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 yip. You know, that, those sharp barks. They're not coming. They've played this game before. So what I do is I use my howler that I can make coyote barks with, and I start mimicking what they're doing. So if they go, ruff, 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 then I'm like, ruff, 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 right back out, exactly the same that they do. This drives them nuts. They won't leave. They will sit there and keep barking as long as I'm barking back at them. Then my partner goes to find them. Okay? So as long as I keep him talking, he goes on the sneak. You know, he's going to go recon out there and try to find them and shoot them. And I've done this lots and lots of times, and it's a lot of fun for me to mimic those coyotes, but it's also a lot of fun for whoever's with me because they get to go try to sneak up on some coyotes and get a shot at one of them. And we did this one night over in eastern Idaho out by Blackfoot with a student I had when I was the campus minister at St. John's Catholic Center up at Idaho State. And this was so much fun. He had a little 17 HMR and I had my 223, and we called some coyotes in, and he missed them. And so I was like, just stay, just don't start doing anything. And I crawled over to where he was and I said, I'm going to keep him talking. You go find him. He's like, all right. So I start barking back at him and he goes sneaking off and they're barking back. And this goes on for about 30 minutes. And I see him kind of crawl over a little ridge line and I keep him talking. Then I hear this, you know, I hear his rifle go off and I just wait. And pretty soon I see him walking over the ridge line with this coyote. You know, I mean, this works really well, but you got to have two people, and whoever's calling has to be able to mimic what those coyotes are doing, right? Because if you just keep up a rabbit, they eventually they're like, we're done, you know, or animal in distress, you know, if they start barking at you, they know what's up, and eventually they're gonna be done. Howling can sometimes keep them talking, but nothing infuriates a coyote like you mimicking them. It just, you know, they won't come in, but they don't want to leave either. You know, they want to know what's going on. And so they'll hang up out there somewhere 300-400 yards, 500 yards. You won't be able to see them. They'll be down low or something, but you send your calling partner after them to put the sneak on them. And I call that the Recon stand. Okay, so there's the ambush stand, the sucker stand, the sniper stand, and the Recon stand. All right, and there are ways to kind of mix some of those, and you know, depending on what you're doing, if you have electronic call or whatever. But I'm a huge fan of those. It's when I have a calling partner with me, so that there's not just two people sitting in the same spot trying to call. Split up, do something with the other guy to give you an advantage over those coyotes. Okay. So, anyway, that's my video on predator calling. That'll be my last one on predator calling unless I am able to get a GoPro or something like that and then shoot one out in the field. I'm just some word of encouragement. If you're having a rough trapping or calling season, I'm right there with you. I've caught a bunch of fox and I caught a really nice badger the other day, but my coyote numbers are way down. You know, they're not good. So anyway, hang in there. Remember, God is great. Guns are good. Freedom is precious. I'll see you next time.